Do 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 do. Do 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 do. You know, what we have here from that movie line is a failure to communicate. Even though I've got like 6,300 and some videos, and I can't remember the titles of those videos, I can distinctly remember what I did and what I did not say. I had a lot of comments recently, and I was talking about the Z6 and Z7 having a single card slot. Let me tell you two hardcore facts of misconception. But first, let's go on to the Nikon D700. I recommended that camera for years. The image output on it's incredible. That camera is built like a brick outhouse, undeniably so. And I mentioned in my Z6 and Z7 video the first iteration, which have one card slot. And they said, oh, you recommended you flip-flopped. You recommended that Nikon D700 and it's only got a single card slot. You're a flip-flopper. Actually, I'm not. What I said was, and what we have here is a failure to communicate because people don't listen, is that redundancy is God. At no point in time of the past years when I recommended the Nikon D700 did I ever say that the Nikon D700 is a working professional camera. Because redundancy is God. I have had 2 XQD card failures. I've had many, many SD card failures. And I don't use those cheap cards that you typically buy. Like, I see a lot of people buy a really nice, expensive camera, and then they'll feed it garbage. It's like buying a purebred $1,000,000 horse and then feeding it to Alpo, right? It's just not a good idea. Putting cheap cards, it failed, and blame the camera. It's like, well, what sort of cards do you do? I stuck in some cheap garbage I got at Kmart. So at no point in time did I ever call the Nikon D700 a working professional camera. Now, professionalism is output. Like, man, that is just a gorgeous composition. That is a photograph to win awards. That's one thing. A working professional's tool means that redundancy is God. As someone that used to do tech support for Apple, I would have people say, oh my God, and I've made a lot of videos on hard drive failure. I have humorously yet accurately called myself the god of hard drives because I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Literally. I've seen hard drive failures up the wazoo, SATA bridge card failures, mainboard failures, spindle motor failures. I mean, I've seen it all. And it's happened to me. And I have multiple backups. When a professional has a hard drive or solid state drive, say, so what? I got it backed up on, I have archives and backups. Multiple locations, multiple places. So, you grab yourself the next copy and you move on. So I never called. And by the way, the only reason I don't recommend that camera anymore, and I still do recommend, is that it's impossible now because that camera's been out for so long. It's become nearly impossible to find a good shaped Nikon D700. It really is. I mean, they're out there, but there's not many of them. And people say, well, if you go on eBay, like maybe 1 in 100 hasn't had the hell kicked out of it. So that's the only reason why I don't mention that. Yeah, redundancy is God. Here's the other thing people don't understand. And I used to hear this a couple years ago when Nikon came out with their Z6 and Z7. Yeah, used an XQD card, and it was forward compatible with the new compact flash express cards. You see these little SD cards are kind of fragile, so to say. And I have a lot of XQD cards. People will say something really stupid, and what we have here again is a failure to communicate. So, well, that's, it doesn't matter if a Z6 or Z7 has a CF Express or XQD card because those are tough cards. Well, there's 2 types of toughness. Yeah, there's physical robustness toughness, right? Yeah, the XQD card and the Compact Flash Express card. They have an all-metal, mostly all-metal encasing, so they're tougher. In the 1 in a billion situation where you would accidentally roll your car over the card. Yeah, it would 9 times out of 10 come out intact more than an SD card would. The SD card would probably squish into the pits and valleys of the pavement, and, it would become worthless. That's one type of toughness. When it comes to digital toughness and the integrity of the data and the table of contents that's written on the card, Those XQD cards and compact flash express cards are no more tough than an SD card is. By the way, I've never been a fan of Sony, as everybody knows. You remember when Sony came out with those tough cards? And then they discontinued and they had a major recall. It was like about 3 or 4 months ago, wasn't it? They were failing way worse than even a cheap card. Yeah, but those cards are really expensive. You're like, I bought a Sony tough card. It's tough. Well, it turns out not only was it radically expensive, it wasn't even tough at all. Do you remember that happening? Do you remember? I remember. Do you remember? I remember. If you don't believe me, look it up. Hit the Google search bar. Okay? So there's 2 types of toughness. Redundancy is God. As an expert of hard drives, and yes, I'm actually an expert of hard drives. I've made a lot of videos on data recovery from various types of hard drive failure, most of which is SATA card failure. Some drives have an infant mortality rate that is a lot higher than others, the worst being Seagate. Yep. But even the really, really expensive, they used to be Western Digital black drives. Yeah, they were server-grade hard drives. They're meant to spin and be, whipped like a red-headed stepchild and just keep on working. Well, redundancy is God, and once again, redundancy is God. The toughest, most expensive hard drives that money can buy still suffer bit rot and ferromagnetic depolarization. Yeah, still suffer the same problems. Redundancy is God. This is why I at no point in time ever referred to any single card slot camera as a working professional's camera. Because they have a single card slot. Yeah. Cameras that I love the hell out of that have a single card slot are the X100V series, FT. Yeah. The XT30. Easily the best little subcompact camera ever. XT30. Yeah. The Nikon D700. There's another one. Single card slot. I never ever called any of those cameras, Fuji or Nikon otherwise, with a single card slot, a working professional's camera. Yeah. So I never flip-flopped. You misunderstood Uncle Kenny. Uncle Kenny never said what you thought he said. You heard one thing, and then you processed it in your head as something else. Uncle Kenny never said that. Uncle Kenny never said that. Then repeat after me. I've said it 20 times in this video already. Redundancy is God. Yeah? Yeah. And no card, even if it's encased in kryptonite. It's like even Superman's lasers couldn't cut through the outer casing, even if such a card existed. The bit rot and the fragility of the data recorded therein is just as fragile as the cheapest, made out of wet toilet tissue, Walmart SD card. Yeah, because there's 2 types of toughness when it comes to... Same is true of hard drives. The same is true of solid-state drives. Yes? There's 2 types of toughness therein. There's the fragility of the data in the table of contents, and then there's the fragility of the physical mechanism itself, which is something different. So all those people say, well, you were wrong about the Z6 and the Z7, Uncle Kenny, because those use tough cards. Compact flash and XQD cards. Those are tougher than SD. Well, that's demonstrably true so far as the physical nature of the card, but has nothing to do with the fragility of the data itself. And that is why I have always said the same thing. No camera with a single card slot is a working professional's camera. It's not. Never has been. I never said it was. Ever, ever, ever. Uncle Kenny never flip-flopped on anything. Yeah? You thought old Uncle Kenny was like a fish on dry land, like flippity-floppity, flippity. I never was. Was that pretty good? Yeah, that's my flippity-floppity fish on the table there. You see it's flopping around? Yeah, I'm not a flip-flopper. You flip-flopping. You're inconsistent, Uncle Kenny. Like, no, I'm not. Oh, my God. Was that too over the top? I don't think it was. Thank you. Wait for it. Fujifilm and Nikon.